Konnichiwa, minasan. O genki desu ka? Welcome to the intermediate course of my channel. Let's learn Japanese with Eric. In this lesson, we will learn how to say even if I do this or even if I do that. Let's begin. Hajimemashou. In this lesson, we will learn how to say even if in Japanese. For example, even if I eat, that's 食べても, 食べても. Even if it's hot, 暑くても, 暑くても. Even if it's quiet, 静かでも, 静かでも. Even friends, 友達でも, 友達でも. The first example is a verb. Second is an i-Adjective. Third is a na-Adjective. And the last example is a noun. The formula for making these conjugations is to take their te forms and add the particle mo. Do you remember the conjugation for asking or giving permission, which we learned in lesson 37? The formula for that was temo ii desu ka, to ask for permission, and temo ii desu, for giving permission. The first part is temo, which is the conjugation we are learning here. It means even if I do. And the second part is ii desu ka, which means is it okay? Literally, the whole thing means even if I do it, is it okay? Or may I do it? Asking for permission. In this lesson, we will focus on the first part, temo, even if I do. Let's start with verbs, which is temo, meaning we take the te form of the verb and add the particle mo. First, let's review the te form. If you recall the 10 basic verb conjugations, the conjugation we use for even if is the te form of the verb. To make the te form of ru-dropping verbs, drop the ru and add te. For example, the verb taberu, which means to eat. Drop the ru, add te to form tabete, which is our te form. For last hiragana changing verbs, the last hiragana of the dictionary form is not dropped, but changes to something else. These are the 9 kinds of endings: kugusu, bumunu, rutsu-u. To make the te form, ku becomes ite, gu becomes ide, su becomes shite, bumunu all turn to nde, and rutsu-u all become utte. For conjugating category 2 verbs, it's the verb ending you need to pay attention to and what it turns into. As for the 5 commonly used irregular verbs, here are their te forms. Suru becomes shite, kuru becomes kite, iku becomes itte, aru becomes atte, and the te form for da is de. Let's practice making the temo conjugation from very common verbs in all verb categories. Keep in mind the rules for conjugating the te form for categories 1, 2, and 3 verbs. Let's start with category 1, or the ru-dropping verbs. Miru is to see, and mitemo means even if I see. I put the I in brackets because it can also be you, he, she, a person, or an animal, depending on the sense. Neru is to sleep, and netemo means even if I sleep. And on to category 2 verbs. Kaku means to write, and kaitemo means even if I write. Nugu means to take off clothes, and nuidemo means even if I take my clothes off. Hanasu means to speak, and hanashitemo means even if I speak. Hakobu means to carry or transport. Hakondemo means even if I carry or transport something. Yomu means to read, and yondemo means even if I read. Shinu means to die. Shindemo means even if I die. Tsukuru means to make, and tsukutemo Atsukutemo means even if I make. Matsu means to wait, and mattemo means even if I wait. Tsukao means to use, and tsukatemo means even if I use. And for the category 3 verbs, kuru means to come, and kitemo means even if I come. Iku means to go, and ittemo means even if I go. Suru means to do, and shitemo means even if I do. Now let's look at example sentences. The te form of taberu is tabete, and adding mo forms tabetemo, which means even if I eat. Even if I eat a lot, I don't get fat. In Japanese, takusan tabetemo futorimasen. Takusan tabetemo futorimasen. If you need to review Japanese sentence construction, you can watch lesson 22, which also explains how Japanese particles work. Isogu means to hurry. Te form is isoide, and adding mo forms isoidemo, which means even if I hurry. Even if I hurry, I won't make it on time. In Japanese, isoidemo maniaimasen. Isoidemo maniaimasen. Also means to push, and its te form is oshite. Adding mo forms oshitemo, meaning even if I push. Even if I push the button, the drink doesn't come out. Maybe there's something wrong with the vending machine. In Japanese, using plain form, botan o oshitemo nomimono ga denai. Botan o oshitemo nomimono ga denai. Yasumu means to rest, and its te form is yasunde. Adding mo forms yasundemo, which means even if I rest. Even if I rested, I'm still tired. In Japanese, yasundemo mada tsukaremashita. Yasundemo mada tsukaremashita. Note that in English, the verbs rested and tired have to be both in the past tense. However, in Japanese, the tense of the sentence is decided by the tense of the verb in the main clause, which is tsukaremashita, meaning tired, past tense, and not by the verb in the subordinate clause, yasundemo, which has no tense. Our last example is a category 3 verb, benkyou suru, which means to study. Te form is benkyou shite, and adding mo forms benkyou shitemo, which means even if I study. Even if she studies, she still fails, unfortunately. In Japanese, using plain style, kanojo wa benkyou shite mo mada rakudai shite shimau. Kanojo wa benkyou shite mo mada rakudai shite shimau. Next, let's look at how to say even if with i-adjectives. To form the te form of i-adjectives, the i ending changes to kute. For example, the adjective takai, which means expensive or high. To form the te form, change the i ending to kute. Te form of takai is takakute. Te form of takai is takakute. Adding mo forms takakutemo, which means even if it's expensive. Even if it's expensive, he will buy the car. In Japanese, kuruma ga takakutemo kare wa kaimasu. Kuruma ga takakutemo kare wa kaimasu. Car takes the particle ga because it's the subject of the subordinate clause, while kare takes the particle wa because it's the subject of the main clause and can also be the topic. Atsui means hot, and its te form is atsukute. Adding mo forms atsukutemo, which means even if it's hot. Even if it's hot, she won't turn on the air conditioner. In Japanese, 暑くても彼女は冷房をつけません。暑くても彼女は冷房をつけません。Now let's look at the case for na-adjectives and nouns. We mentioned on several occasions, such as in lesson 16 on na-adjectives, that na-adjectives are grammatically nouns. And when you have a noun as the predicate in a sentence, we use the verb des or da, plain form, as our verb. This is the very first sentence structure that you learned way back as early as lesson 5. A is B. A wa B des. And the te form of the verb des is de, which we learned back in lesson 30 on irregular verbs. First example, the na-adjective shizuka na, which means quiet. Its te form is shizuka de, and adding mo forms shizuka demo, which means even if it's quiet. Even if the library is quiet, no one studies there. In Japanese, using plain form, 図書館が静かでもあそこで誰も勉強しない。図書館が静かでもあそこで誰も勉強しない。Hetana means unskillful. We first encounter this na-adjective back in lesson 8 on expressing ability. Its te form is heta de. Adding mo forms heta demo, which means even if I'm unskillful. Even if I'm unskillful, I will sing, or even if I suck at singing, I will sing. In Japanese, heta demo utaimasu. Heta demo utaimasu. Now let's look at nouns. Tomodachi means friend. Te form, tomodachi de, and adding mo forms tomodachi demo, which means even friends. Even good friends fight. In Japanese, ii tomodachi demo kenka shimasu. Ii tomodachi demo kenka shimasu. Kodomo means child. Te form, kodomo de, adding mo forms kodomo demo, which means even a child. This is something that even a child can do. In Japanese, これは子供でもできることです。これは子供でもできることです。To summarize, in this lesson, we learned how to say even if in Japanese. The general formula is to take the te form of the verb I or na adjective or noun and add mo. In the case of a verb, this is even if I do, take the te form of the verb and add mo, temo. In the case of an i-adjective, that becomes KUTEMO. In the case of a na-adjective, that becomes Na-adjective DEMO. And for a noun, that becomes Noun DEMO. And that ends our lesson on even if. じゃあ、次のレッスンに会いましょう。If you're serious about becoming fluent in Japanese, it's important to practice daily, learn grammar, and build up vocabulary. My whole course is designed to give you a strong basic foundation in the Japanese language that you can build solidly on. So please click like, share, or subscribe, and watch the next video in the series. Nihongo no benkyou ni ganbatte kudasai. じゃあ、またね。